maybe we have in Africa. But it is our responsibility to keep advocating for this, for a reduction on the taxes, for governments to subsidize access to these different technologies and softwares that can make life better and that can support persons with disabilities to participate in society. Sorry, your question again?
My question was on existing innovation, so it's either apps or technology that is already existing that was not created inclusively. What are we doing to ensure that those innovations become inclusive for all?
I want to start with an example. Today, if you were to insert an image into a Word document or a PowerPoint presentation like this, or if you were to post a picture on Twitter, they will ask you to provide an alternative text. That wasn't the case 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 15 years ago. That means there has been continuous engagement from the disability community with the people that develop these different platforms that we all get to use online or on our computers or on our phones. So many apps have been developed previously when they do not put in mind accessibility for persons with disabilities. And over time, with continuous engagement, with every stakeholder playing their role, we get to see these apps transforming into accessible software. And by every stakeholder playing their role, it all starts with government. You've set a legislation that all ICT equipment and software should be accessible for persons with disabilities. Do governments get to follow up on those legislations for all software and equipment that is developed within the country? Do us as members of the private sector or civil society play our role in ensuring that every website we develop, every publication we make, every app that we come up with, we consider persons with disabilities as users? Do we put them at the forefront in the development of these different softwares and technologies? Or we only think of them after everything has been developed and then we remind ourselves, oh, persons with disabilities can't use this. So it all goes back to us playing our role in our different capacities. Thank you so much.
Moderator, can you adjust something very small? Okay, if it's okay, then I just want to add that there are so many guidelines on accessibility that can be accessed by ICT or app developers. So with time we can share those, and for anyone that is interested in ensuring accessibility in their app, they can read those guidelines and they will ensure some level of accessibility.
Thank you very much for those contributions. Let's appreciate Hassan again. Thank you. Now our next presenter is David Onyaele from Nigeria, and his presentation is on access to information communication technology for persons with disabilities in Africa, and is giving us the Nigerian experience. Welcome, David.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you for paying attention to this our section. I must commend my colleagues for digging deeper and creating a kind of foundation that equally supports what I'm about to present now. As I said, I'm David Anyele. I'm a disability rights activist. Actually, I was not born with disability. I lost my two hands in Freetown, Sierra Leone during the Civil War, in which they captured me because of I'm a Nigerian, and I was trading in Freetown, and they chopped off my two hands. And that they didn't also end there. They set me on fire. But graciously, I was able to be rescued by the Nigerian contingent of ECOMOG, flown back to Lagos, and it was there that I was introduced to disability. What stigma, discrimination, isolation, all manner of abuses that people go through day by day. And I asked myself, what can I do in order to add value, in order to, no matter how little, we make the changes. Recognizing that we are from Africa, Africa naturally discriminates, isolates by reason of disability. We heard what my colleague said about the type of names we give to people with disabilities in different countries. Nigeria is not excluded from that. So if you have any form of disability, you are reduced to ground zero. Not only will you be poor, you will not even be allowed to stand up. When you want to be, if you try to stand up, systems, attitude, all manner of things will push you down. I'm glad that as we're discussing disability, someone like me is here to join forces with people who are more knowledgeable in this area in terms of inclusion and mainstreaming to also chip in, share from a disability perspective. I've run CCD for close to 20 years because when I lost my limbs in 1999, in the process of trying to reintegrate, we founded CCD. It was formerly Amputees Rehabilitation Foundation because we started doing peer support programs supporting newly amputees to manage exclusion, stigma, isolation. And you can't believe it. They are the international businessman who have been trading in business in different countries. Suddenly went to ground zero. Suddenly you can, if you go to a particular place, when they see you with that hand, they'll be like, who is this one? Friends will, try to share apps to you. These are people who can't even serve as your receptionist, when something have not really occurred. But that's what disability can do in the life of an individual. But only be resilient, committed, identifying your own identity and use it to stand up and persevere and move forward in life. On this note, I ask you to join me on this presentation. As I said, people with disabilities, as we all know, we suffer disadvantage, as I just mentioned, using my own personal experience. So it's not a news to anybody that people with disabilities suffer discrimination. Even in ICT, so when we talk about ICT, how does it mean to people with disabilities? Any person with disability that speaks on ICT is an elite in Africa. It's only the elites with disabilities speaks about, ICT, like Dr. Abdul, people like him, if he comes to Nigeria, we should do the national anthem for him because he's knowledgeable, he's super. So you don't find many of them in other countries. So when disability, when we talk about it, it has to do with all, forms of disability. Be it sensory, mental, physical impairment that hinders you from participating on equal basis with others in the society. And access to, ICT for disabilities, ensures to the extent by which the ICT products and services can be used by disabilities, as a polarizing opportunity. The more you have access to ICT, the more you equalize, the more you have power, the more you are included. So globally, as we all know, more than 15% of the world population has one form of disability. The other, it is projected to be more than 1 billion. Here in 400 million found in developing countries, and 20% is found within Africa. The report says that nearly 40% of African population is moving towards PWDs or persons with disabilities. If you look at people who have mental health impairment, if we aggregate it and add it to physical disability or sight, you know that the number of people with disability in Africa is far too high. Next slide. Okay. So 10 to 15% are, of school-going children. It has been estimated that school enrollment for children with disabilities from 5 and 10% against children without disabilities. So while children without disabilities have access to go to school, children with disabilities struggle much more. Parents even hide them. You can't see them on the street. And so they keep up managing it. The reason is simple. The more you showcase your own disability, the more you attract stigma and discrimination. So they want to describe you, you hear, oh, the mother of that man that doesn't have hands. That's how they will describe you. If you want to go to their street, they say, if you go to that street of that man that doesn't have hands, the other street, So it's your identity, your disability. So they said also in Africa, approximately 70 to 80% of working age PWDs remain unemployed. So even you go to school, even you are able to surmount your disability, but to get a living based on the reason of your disability, you struggle much more. So people like us are seen as a super people because, as I'm here, if you hear that I'm here, they say, oh, it's a very big man. But sometimes it's not correct. ICT and the internet are becoming essential means of implementing means by implemented by African countries to increase, equal access to healthcare, food. We are seeing what technology is doing in order to alleviate poverty, in order to support financial inclusion, all manner of things. ICT is supported here in Africa to increase, or to reduce poverty. People with disabilities are struggling to participate. And the reason is it may not be simple, it may not be, difficult, lack of knowledge, lack of capacity. Service provider do not even understand these issues. These are the issues. As ICT and disability-related laws, are also being produced in Africa, but we struggle with compliance and implementation. Next slide. So what I'm trying to share with us here is, looking at enabling, environment that has helped in person with disabilities access to ICT, examining it, then also to look at the challenges people with disabilities face in their struggle to access ICT, and also share with us what I think we should do in order to improve on this. Yeah. So here in Sub-Saharan Africa, this is what we can see. In Sub-Saharan Africa is projected to be the fastest growing region, with a compound annual growth rate of 4.6%. And additional subscriber role of 160 million in the next 5 years. Nigeria is expected to produce about 55% of this number in terms of access to ICT. Nigeria is regarded as the Africa's largest ICT market. 82% of the continent telecom subscribers and 29% of internet use. In Nigeria, you will see anything you want based on our population because we are many. Data from our NCC shows that telecommunication contributed as much as 12.45% of our annual GDP as at 2020, and up to 10.6% in the same quarter of preceding year, that's last year. NCC also estimated that the country has about 76 million subscribers on broadband penetration, about 40% of our population. That is about 186 million lines in voice segment as at May 2021. So, if you come to Nigeria, different telecom all are struggling to ensure that some of the things we are looking for, we get it. To the extent that every day new telecom subscribers are coming up, internet users are everywhere, people are using social media, trying to do one thing or the other. But to what extent are people with disabilities using it, or to what extent are we trying to see that it's available for all? Sorry, technology we're having challenges. Next slide. Okay. So we're going to be looking at the policies or legal framework that supports people with disabilities access to ICT. We are all aware of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Nigeria have signed, Nigeria have ratified, quote unquote, but there is a law in Nigeria that states that for such laws to be a municipal law, it must go to the parliament. And the Nigerian government is struggling to take it to the parliament. So, as of today, it's not a municipal law, but in terms of ratification, we have ratified. We are doing our best to see that we comply, or based on the provisions of the law. Article 4 of the convention, encourage state parties to condemn all manner of discrimination. Article 9 of the convention also encourage state parties to ensure access to ICT, for people with disabilities. Nigeria is also implementing SDG. SDG in particular, Goal 9 talks about access to or provide for industrial innovation and infrastructure, and this goal is achieved if when it is ensured that communication infrastructures and ICT are stable and inclusive of people with disabilities. So SDG speaks, support, ensure that people with disabilities have access to ICT. Next slide. So out of the 36 states of federal government of Nigeria, 5% have passed the national disability law. The disability law was passed in 2019. We were able to struggle with the Nigerian government for 18 good years to ensure that we get a law that prohibits all manner of discrimination against people with disabilities. It was a war. But we were able to go to engage in the fight. When in trenches, and successfully we were able to secure their assets on that law. Ever since the law was signed in 2019, we were able to get about 15 states that made commitment passing the law at the subnational level. Last 2 weeks, I was able to meet one of the governors and the wife and the parliament, and the speaker of the parliament, and we were able to sign also at that particular Abia state. They were able to sign it. So we are making progress in terms of, ensuring that at the state level these laws are domesticated. So, but beyond all this, Nigeria also participated in the economic. Please go back to this slide. Nigeria has, benefited from capacity building program organized by ECOWAS. ECOWAS, through the International Telecommunication Union, build the capacity of member states on issues that has to do with access to ICT for persons with disabilities. Many countries from West Africa participated in that particular activity, in which they review the policy and encourage member states to adopt the law. The National Assembly also have passed the telecommunication law in 2003. There is a provision that ensures that the issues or needs of disabilities are integrated in ICT in Nigeria. In fact, the Customer Code of Practice regulation of 2007 also encouraged the licensee to comply with any law or specific directive that has to do with ensuring that people with disabilities have access to ICT. Next slide. But beyond participating in this organized forum, we are seeing that there are also challenges that are facing in terms of PWD's access to ICT. They are not implementing, just as we heard here before, that policies that has to do with persons with disabilities are hardly implemented. It's a special case because there is this belief that disability issues is a charity issue. And because it's a charity issue, you are not supposed to be part of the policy. Compliance to laws that has to do with persons with disabilities. Ministers, representatives in Nigeria are the good defaulters of this law. So they hardly implement. The research we conducted last year, with support from Ford Foundation, shows that MDAs in Nigeria are not responding to the provisions of the law. We also see absence of political will. So you see, they will be there, they see all these laws, both the NCC Act and all the rest, but to implement becomes a problem. So it's a serious issue on our part. As I said, we are applying charity-based approach. Charity is a pity, so sometimes it can be disheartening. Next slide. Limited access to the high cost of assistive device technologies. A classical example is what I'm using. So I'm wearing artificial limbs. What I'm wearing here is called my electrical control below able prosthesis. For me to wear this, I have to spend 52,000 euro for me to wear it as I'm wearing it. And there's no guarantee that it will not spoil. So I speak to you, you see I use plaster to plaster here. I did it because there's a crack. So I don't want it to go deeper. The more it goes deeper, the more it affects me. So if I'm going to fix it, I'm going to spend not less than $3,000 for me to service it. Servicing it means that I have to travel outside the country, I have to spend in a hotel, I have to spend many days before I get this service. So you can imagine the cost I alone consume from my family budget. So if my family budget is, let's say, $5,000 per annum, I'll be taking $3,000 just for me to participate. So you can see the cost of being a person with disabilities for me to manage and be all I want to do. So every year, if I say, your hand is good now, you've got a new hand. But you don't know that my pocket is empty because it's out of pocket expenses. Government is not subsidizing. You can write a request for assistance to government agencies, they won't help you. As I always tell people, the moment you become a person with disabilities, one of the letters you need to know how to write is how to write a request for assistance. So you know how to write it, you look at somebody's face, you prepare it very well to meet his need, just for you to get support. Because government will not support you. If you don't know how to write a request for assistance, you've not started as a person with disabilities. So that's how you'll be doing it until you get support and be all you want to be. We also have issue of limited capacity and complacency on the part of PWDs and OPDs. The question is, does it matter to them? ICT. When we are struggling with poverty, like in my country, more than 60% of the population are extremely poor. And among these 60%, you can imagine what will be happening within the disability community. I mean, the country's population. So, Why they are struggling to get food to eat, and you are telling them ICT, how does it look like? so it's a huge, even the DPOs, it's not an issue to them. Coupled with development partners. So development partners are they willing to support you to do ICT? I think these are the issues we need to pump up here. Dr. Abdul, you need to raise this bar, because I see as a champion to see how do we encourage development partners that are littered in this banner for them to pay attention, even if to give 2% to push issue of ICT on disability. I think it will go a long way for us to begin to scratch to see what we can do, because most of the things PWDs do or PDs do are donor driven, because your country is not giving you, so it is the donor that dictates whether you are going to do anything or not. So if they say, oh, we are supporting sexual reproductive health, you say, okay, we also do sexual reproductive health. If they are supporting election, you also tell them we are doing election. So, but if you design a campaign and you have access to resources, it will be easier for DPOs to be able to. Next slide. So, in all these stories I've been telling you, you may ask, what do we do? You know, how do we go about it? These are some of the things I feel that, you know, if we're able to, you know, look at it, we can probably do better. And Nigeria should take appropriate steps, you know, to promote ICT. We have the documents. We have seen that there are also efforts made by government to support ICT disabilities in Nigeria. We need to remove this charity. We need to, you know, operationalize the right to access. And this trending they are engaging with the ECOWAS, Nigeria should adopt, you know, the policy in order to ensure that it's operationalized. All the policies, existing laws, you know, because research we've done shows that implementing our law is a good challenge, and so these laws need to be implemented, and we can only do it if, you know, PWDs are in the forefront. Efforts should be made to ensure access, affordability of ICT. PWDs don't even know whether it's expensive or not. All they know that they are not getting it, because what do they used to do? Mail call, send text message, except the blind community that knows what, you know, features is all about. But only within the elites, you know, within this group, they are the people who uses it. Others struggle to, you know, so we need to push to ensure that, you know, we have access to devices. You know, people who will encourage to, you know, to benefit from this. Advocates with disabilities, we need to build, you know, advocates who can be able to speak to this issue, understand how it affects them, understand what the future holds for them. Because I always say there is a future, you know, in this. Mobilizing resources, you know, to support and create awareness and demand for access and participation. Yes, guys. So in my conclusion, I said this. I said no one should be left behind on ICT. No one. Accessibility, by reason of disability, as inclusive society includes access to ICT services, products. Therefore, government, all of us, you know, must work together to remove all barriers and ensure that ICT accessibility becomes a reality in our countries. You know, and this can be done through application of universal design principles. And so we always say, there's nothing about us without us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, David. I think I don't need to add anything. We'll take just 2 quick questions or comments. Yes, Dr. Abdul.
Go ahead. Question that you remember. I said it yesterday and I want to repeat it. Technology makes life easier for the people. But again, technology makes life difficult for people with disabilities. If you think about that and you know a person with disability somewhere, just know that their life is impossible without technology, whatever sort of technology. The final part is that my friend from Nigeria, we are thinking out a model, a begging model, where we shall be getting all the used technology from those developed countries. And we see how we can use it for some more time. Because at the moment, iPhone X is expired in America, for instance. but iPhone X is much better than your feature phones. So if we bought those and distributed them free of charge or at a very low cost, that might be the beginning point for us to have something called ICT. We are thinking out that kind of model, and we are getting some positive responses. Just pray for.
That's a very important contribution. Thank you very much, Dr. Abdul. Okay, so I know we are pressed for time. We'll turn to the questions. Just write it down. We'll come back later. Thank you. So I have also a presentation to make. This is from a research which we did. I know the presentation is really very good, but it was on previous the title, please, on WhatsApp and participation in sexual and reproductive health for women with disabilities in Kenya. In Jackie's presentation, she just highlighted 1 or 2 or 3 cases of women with disabilities who, unfortunately die when they're giving birth. And it's because perhaps they don't have this information, all the stigma that they face when they visit hospitals, information being denied to them, and so on. So let's move on next. So we're thinking about, in a study, we're looking at how technology can create a safe space for women to discuss issues to do with sexual and reproductive health. So we know that we have so many social, cultural, political, and legal practices that hinder women from effectively participating in sexual and reproductive health. And if you look at the statistics, about 1.7 million people in Kenya have disabilities, and 2/3 of these are women. And so if you look at those statistics, then it's a huge population which is being denied this information. Next slide. And some of the services that the women are denied are to do with menstrual management, use of contraceptives, pregnancy, management of sexual health, family planning, safe abortion, birth, among many, many other issues. Next slide. Now, when we're looking at what technologies are available in Kenya and which are popular, this is data from 2020. We found that WhatsApp is a very popular app in Kenya compared to the rest of them. Let's move on. So that's why we framed our study to do with WhatsApp. And basically we're looking at the effectiveness of this platform in sharing SRH information, and then attitudes towards SRH information for women with disabilities. And finally, just to capture some of these experiences of women with disabilities regarding SRH. Move on. And we're trying to premise our discussion on a theory we call uses and gratifications, because it's women using this app for whichever way they want. And if you look at what Stassen says in 2020 in this publication, you use, for example, social media because it gives opportunity to participate in a community of connected individuals. So when women come together, and perhaps in closed communities, they're able to discuss their own issues in a safe space. I think I'll just say we used a random sample of 100 women, and we also interviewed 6 women in them. Can move on. So some of the findings we got is that most of these women we looked at in terms of frequency of social media use, and we operationalized the frequency to mean, for example, very frequent is over 10 times a day. Checking what social media sites. Frequently was 3 times a day, but you also have those who use it rarely, maybe even once a week. So we found that the majority of the women use social media or access social media frequently, very frequently. Sorry, and move on. Now, in terms of platform preference, we also found out that WhatsApp, had a very high incident of preference compared to all the other platforms: Twitter, Facebook, Telegram. So WhatsApp was the most preferred, channel for women with disabilities. Can move on. Now, there's this question, and it's a big question, whether women with disabilities should receive SRH information. Because as we noted earlier, they are denied this information. And the majority of the participants said, yes, women with disabilities should actually be included in this messaging. Next. Now, we also looked at sexual stereotyping, and we found that 75% of the respondents agreed that yes, there's sexual stereotyping regarding women with disabilities. And just to quote one participant who said, women with disabilities are discriminated against because they are prevented from sexual satisfaction, they are being violated and abused, and there's no commitments are made in a relationship, and that family planning is done without our consent. And some of the topics now, which the women in these closed WhatsApp groups were discussing regarding SRH information, as they reported, is, for example, sex education, sexual pleasure, the stereotypes regarding them as women with disabilities, and just awareness creation. Now, in terms of level of engagement, and here we're thinking, for example, if a woman is in a closed WhatsApp group and there's a message on SRH, how do they engage with that message? Do they just read and pass? Do they read and share? Do they read and comment? And so on. And we found that around 80% of women actually read the message, shared. 30% will reply, read and reply to that message. And around 50% will also read, reply, and also share with others. So the level of engagement is also quite high. In terms of efficacy, and I know this is a big question, 55% of women found WhatsApp as an effective platform. However, 45% were ambivalent about the use of WhatsApp, and perhaps some of the reasons we are giving is that it's ineffective for sharing information with people with other types of disabilities, such as blindness, intellectual disability, deaf, blind, and so on. So it was only effective to a certain, perhaps, community of people. In terms of the challenges that women face, we found that affordability, and I know that's been discussed, I don't need to elaborate further, so affordability is an issue. We also found that 65% felt, I think that's still under the bundles. 45% found the discussions on WhatsApp perhaps easy to follow, meaning the majority, also did find them easy to follow. And that's why it brings us to the next important question, next important point. And we had 80% of the women saying perhaps we should be having experts, being onboarded in the groups to discuss particular issues, and then perhaps when the discussion is done, then the experts can leave, instead of just leaving them to discuss among themselves. And we found that to be a very important point. And also the issue of WhatsApp lacking the human touch when discussing issues to do with SRH, and perhaps that also follows, perhaps points to the fact that perhaps there's need for organization beyond, beyond offline discussions as a follow-up to, online discussions. Next. The next one. So let's come to the conclusions and recommendations from our study. We found out that yes, WhatsApp was effective, but it had limitations, especially to certain types of disabilities like blindness, intellectual disability, and deaf, blind. Now, we also recommend that with these groups, they could find more structured discussions, especially when they bring in experts to discuss specific topics or issues that perhaps they feel are pertinent for them. And then also, and I think in the morning we also had a discussion in this very room of saying, how do we make these technologies more responsive? So is there a way to find apps that can help share messages in terms of visual, pictorial, audio forms, so that it's easier for people with many types of disabilities to get information. And finally, government working with stakeholders can also try to disseminate SRH information through platforms that are accessible for people with disabilities. So thank you. I think that's my presentation. Okay, now I'll still leave the questions and comments. I think we have 5 or so minutes. No, I think it's 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Okay, fine. I think it'll be one. Any other? I think we can take a couple. 2, 3, and 4. Okay, good. Go ahead. I believe you know your number, so number 1. The mic. We don't trust this mic, but let's see. How to behave. Oh, sorry.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for this program. Because you are trying to make sure that people with disability get to access information. But I have a concern concerning deaf people like me that can't really read. I get to use sign language grammar, which is different from English grammar, and the information that is published is usually in English grammar. So now, how best do you think you can make sure that people who are deaf, like me, get to have access to this information that you plan to reach out?
Thank you. Let's go to the second person. You can tell us the name as you present.
Hi, Anna Kampanek, Center for International Private Enterprise. Thank you so much for a wonderful panel. I guess general question to the panel, where do you see the role of working with other stakeholders? So obviously we talked about governments, we talked about technology platforms, but I'm thinking more at the local level, civil society organizations, perhaps local private sector. My organization works typically with chambers of commerce, business associations. Obviously, entrepreneurship is one of the key areas for economic empowerment of persons with disabilities. So I wonder if there are guidance, best practices, or examples where you have this cooperation with other parts of civil society towards greater digital inclusion.
Thank you. Number 3. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much for your presentation.
Please.
I'm Holland. I work in sexual reproductive health rights, and a huge part of what we do is to provide information to adolescents for safe abortions, contraceptives, and I'd like to know what we can do more and better to ensure that we provide access for people with disabilities, mostly through all the social media platforms other than WhatsApp, to make it safe and accessible, and with our partner organizations. For example, there's an organization called Women First Digital, and they have a website that provides free contraceptives for where you can get contraceptives anywhere in the world. In I think 130 countries, even free abortions. They sort of decide, have information on where you can get them safe, how much they are. So what can we do to make sure that it's extremely accessible for people with disabilities?
Thank you. Finally, Doctor.
Yeah, mine is more of I think more of a solution. We have a number of important instruments that have come into force in the last few years. So I appeal to the people here, especially with disabilities, to up your advocacy to ensure that our countries ratify these instruments, that Africa Protocol on Disability on Human and People's Rights. Only 3 countries have ratified. We need to do something. The Marrakesh Treaty, very few countries have ratified. We need to do something. If there are still countries that have not ratified the CRPD in Africa, we still need to advocate so that they ratify. 2, we have the Global Assistive Technology Project. There are technocrats there. They are doing a lot of good work, but are they bringing things closer to the people that need them? Like my friend from Nigeria, that money you're paying, World Health Organization is purporting to have that project, the GET project. How much of that is trickling down to us? When we are equipped with this knowledge, we need to see that we advocate for ways of getting our governments to act in some of these projects and efforts. These people signed and they have acceded to the 2030 agenda for sustainable development. Myself personally, I advocated for the inclusion of disability in the SDGs because they did not put us in the MDGs. We made a lot of noise and good enough, we are now visible in the SDGs. So as you're monitoring the implementation of that agenda, put your government to task to explain to them if they are monitoring, if they are implementing that thing, how much of disability issues are they including in the implementation of the SDGs? We still have at least 8 years to go. There should be something that should come to us. Otherwise, this has not got to be singing nobody to be left behind when they are actually leaving us behind. So those are some of the efforts that I want to give to this group here, because you must have been selected because you are kind of a lead to come to this forum. So well, let's see what we can do, because we can assure our government when they don't do some of these things. Let them not continue getting world money when they cannot implement some of these things. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, fine. I think because of time, I'll just allow each panelist to respond. You can respond to any question raised, concern, and also give your final remarks. 1 or 2 minutes.
I want to start by appreciating Dr. Abdul. Things to do with advocacy for the ratification of the various treaties that are available that can help us to achieve more for persons with disabilities. It's very important. The Marrakesh Treaty was passed in 2018, but until now, very few countries have come forward to ratify it or to assent to it. This implies that there is no commitment for governments really to promote accessibility to ICTs or to information for persons with disabilities. We need to do something more to push our governments to include persons with disabilities in their planning and in governance. That's all from me.
Yeah, I want to call on all stakeholders to rally around and include people with disabilities in this whole conversation, because the greater visibility of persons with disabilities in this conversation, the more they are equipped, the more they draw strength to push. There is nothing about us without what we say within the disability movement. As such, I call for collaboration. On the part of working with the private sector, part of what I've learned from coming to this meeting is the need to find linkage with the private sector, because they hold the key. They are the drivers of technology in every part of the world, and if they understand and appreciate our issue, they will equally be able to speak and to campaign along with us. So part of the thing I intend to do going back is to interrogate opportunities, entry points to engage with the private sector in Nigeria. There are already effort being made to link the private sector vis-a-vis the implementation of the National Disability Act in Nigeria, but we only want to take the opportunity of that platform to push for accessible ICT, to bring ICT operators within the system to take advantage and build on it. Election in Nigeria is going to take place next year. ICT is going to play a key role in the elections, in 2023 general elections in Nigeria. The ability of PWDs to understand ICT and its implication of what they are doing will go a long way to enhance their participation in politics. As Sister mentioned, I will encourage you to identify organizational possibilities within your locality. You can look for the network organization. Each country has a network organization. Invite them and have interactive discussion with them. Showcase all the opportunities that you think that can be helpful with them. Find a way to collab and ensure that they understand it, because as I said earlier, poverty is real within the disability community. You may be talking about sexual and reproductive health, whereas the person is talking about food to eat. You equally try to link him, the relationship between that food he wants to eat and the good health you equally try to desire in the future. I believe together we will be able to create a continent that is responsive, that is also encourage people with ability to participate. I also want to commend the organizer of this event for including people with abilities to come. It's not always common in Africa where this kind of high-level conversation is going on and there is a small space for us to participate. So I commend them. Please, Abdul, send our congratulations to them and say we are grateful for allowing us to participate.
Yeah, I will really do that.
Yeah.
Jackie, in a minute.
Okay. Thank you so much. I thank you for creating time to come here and be with us. We don't take it for granted. Another thing I want to say, everyone who is interested in collaboration, we are ready to collaborate. I work for Internews Network, and we have offices in like 100 countries in the world. So I think maybe wherever you are, we can be able to collaborate with you. Another thing about disability is the only club you don't apply to join. So thank you for being here. You've heard the story of my friend here. She was just ambushed and cut. So you can just come from here, you get an accident to a person with a wheelchair. How are you prepared to face the disability? So disability is something that affects all of us, and it is up to us to really think about it, and not just to think about it when it affects us. Thank you so much for creating time to be here, and I do appreciate so much.
Yeah, I think from me, nothing more. My friends from Uganda, Nigeria, and Kenya have said it all. Thank you very much, and I appreciate. Thank you.
Yes, Thank you for
Yeah.
No, Kenya is international.
Yes, I know the story of